Gros, c'est la puissance, c'est la puissance, la puissance. Gros, c'est la puissance, c'est la puissance.
Well, that's what's important about George, is that he's a martial artist. He's always been a martial artist, you know, and that desire to learn and that enjoying the training and the struggle.
Like when I grew up, I watched his fights, like all fights with my father, and he is greatest athlete who ever competed in UFC. Middleweight, welterweight champion.
When you're the greatest fighter of all time, they don't call you the greatest fighter of all time. They call you Georges St-Pierre.
When you look back on the UFC, from say UFC 50, you know, all the way up to 150, I mean, you were really the face of that brand as it got bigger. The kids or people these days don't remember. I mean, back in the day, the UFC was not that big. It was not that cool. It was hard to get on TV. And you were one of the first fighters to cross over and do these big sponsorship deals with, you know, I think Under Armour was a big one, but you were the guy that kind of turned it from what the public kind of thought of as a blood sport, and then major brands were putting you as the face. I mean, that was a big deal, and that paved the way for a lot of other fighters to get those endorsement deals.
Firas Zahabi and him were a phenomenal combination, because Firas is so intellectual, he's so smart, and he's thinking rationally. He's not like, you're going to go in there and you're going to fuck him up. None of that.
Solving problems.
It's all about overloading his mind. Right. It's all very rational, very technique-based, very psychology-based.
The gap between Georges St-Pierre as a mixed martial artist and the rest of the world is too big for anybody else to close. That is the greatest fighter we've ever seen.
Georges St-Pierre he's a special guy. He really is a special athlete. He's a brilliant guy. Like when you just see and talk to him, and just the way he breaks down life, the way he's thinking about life, he's thinking about it very smart. Very smart. You watch those fights and you just go, that is arguably the greatest welterweight of all time.
I agree.
People were really underestimating how great Georges St-Pierre was. Yeah. He's a guy who beat every person that was ever put in front of him. The losses that he had avenged so beautifully. Georges St-Pierre is a monster, and
if you have to make a case, I don't think there's a stronger case for anyone than for Georges St-Pierre.
Crazy.
And the greats are martial artists now. The greats are Lyoto Machida. The greats are Anderson Silva. The greats are Georges St-Pierre, Jose Aldo. These are the greats, and these guys are real martial art. The 2013 170-pound division is just stacked. It's just a murderer's row of assassins. One lining up after the other, each killer looking more impressive than the next, all waiting to get a hold of George. So of course he's a lone wolf. Who the fuck is that guy gonna relate to? He's Georges St-Pierre. You know, there's not a lot of those around.
Fighting out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Georges St-Pierre!
You ready? Let's go!
One of the most diverse fighters in the history of the sport.
He's so talented, Joe. He's able to adapt his game plan to neutralize what is his opponent's biggest strength.
So you'll see that George's entire methodology in the standing position is built around the concept of a dilemma. The dilemma is always between his jab and his takedown. People always talk about proactive and reactive takedowns. The thing about George is he would use his jab proactively, but he would use his takedowns reactively. George would literally provoke people.
He takes down wrestlers. He outstrikes strikers. He avoids the submission game against submission specialists.
St-Pierre still an incredible striker. Even though we've watched him mature in his ground skills and his controlling of opponents, you gotta remember, this guy strikes as well as anybody. Lightning quick, precise, powerful.
I mean, it's not just his athleticism, it's his athleticism and how he applies it to his techniques. That's the thing about St-Pierre, is he's so technical as well.
I mean, the fight itself was one of the toughest tests of my life. I was always on the back foot. I never mounted any kind of offensive. And that, in 25 minutes, is annoying for me, but impressive, in my opinion, for George, to be able to take somebody completely out of their game.
St-Pierre is so strong that you see guys, they almost look confused when he throws them around. When they can't take him down and he takes them down so easy, they almost look confused.
Most important thing, if you can do all those things, is that the other guy has to not know what you're doing. That was Georges St-Pierre's greatest strength.
So there was always a feint before everything. Yeah. Because he's always throwing feints. So you never know when that shot's coming.
You were always behind.
Koscheck fight.
Yes.
Jab and
he's
double it.
So fucking good at that.
The thing we're seeing about Georges St-Pierre is he's getting better. That's the scary thing. Not only is he one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world and the dominant welterweight champion, he improves every time we see him.
I mean, his ability to mix up the strikes and the takedowns, we never knew what the fuck was going on. His constant victories and the scrambles, and you know, you were looking at all of these various disciplines and trying to formulate a strategy for a guy who's just such a supreme athlete, George.
You know, oftentimes they'll say, don't listen to the critics, don't listen to the critics. But you know what? Georges St-Pierre did listen to the critics and has set out to prove them wrong, and prove them wrong he has done here tonight.
He is the most complete fighter in the UFC today. Georges St-Pierre.
Day he went to do a shootbox workout. Now, I could sit here all day and tell you adventures of Georges St-Pierre doing shootbox training with people. I've seen him spar everybody. Okay, I'm not going to mention names, but I've seen Georges St-Pierre take down effortlessly some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts in weight divisions far above his own. So many times per round, you just lose count. Okay, I'm afraid to even tell you the stories because people wouldn't believe me.
Hey, who's the greatest takedown artist in UFC history?
Georges St-Pierre.
He has like 1 million takedowns in the UFC.
Takedown accuracy #1 all time.
He's a machine. I mean, the guy practices as hard as any man in the world. He's got the most scientific training known to man.
In a lot of ways, he is the perfect fighting machine.
He's got a history of success against the greatest fighters in the world in one of the most talent-stacked divisions on earth.
St-Pierre with a record-setting title defense tonight. St-Pierre has said many times he wants to be the man that brought MMA to a different level, always recreating himself.
Only time will tell them, 'cause I know I'd prove them wrong. I was made to be a legend, for the kingdom, for the throne. This is the moment I've waited for all of my life. This is my legacy, this is my moment to rise. I was born to win. I was born to win. I'm going up levels, I come to the top. Keep going and I never stop. I was born to win. I was born to win. From the first day I stepped in, I knew I would heed the call. I was destined for glory, rise above and never fall. This is the moment I've waited for all of my life. This is my legacy, this is my moment to rise. I was born to win. 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 I was born to win.
How often does he train?
All the time, man.
All the time.
It's a machine. It's a machine. He has an animal.
telling you, he's a monster. Like, I was training with him Saturday. He's the world's greatest martial artist.
Really?
That's my fam, I'll hold them down forever. Us against the world, we can battle whoever. Together, ain't no way we gon' fail. You know I got your back, just like a turtle shell. Nobody do it better. All my brothers tryna get some cheddar. We all wanna cut like the shredder. Me and my bros come together for the dough. Bought the orange Lamborghini, call it Michelangelo. With the nunchuck dough, and I'm pulling up slow. When we fall up in the party, they know anything goes. Check my Rolex, they say I'm the man of the hour. All this green in my pockets, you can call it turtle power.
When I come out of the locker room, there's Georges St-Pierre. There was a couple of takeaways. This was years ago. This was probably 2013. And I still remember how strong that son of a bitch was. I mean, I'm talking about a weird strength. And a lot of it in his grip. When he would grab my wrist, I'm sitting there fighting to get my arm free. I remember this strength.
Ain't nothing that could come in between me and my brothers. We all around if it's going down. It's just us, all for one. Yeah, you hearing right, our business done. We disappear into the night. Came up together, so we all down for the fight. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Family ain't nothing strong as that. And I'll be posted where the strong as that. Brothers by my side, city on my back. Real heroes, that's what the people want. They ain't born, gotta create them. Saying we gone soon as we save them. That's part of the plan. By my side, I'ma keep my brothers. Live or die, man, we need each other.
And another thing I remember about George is he would not stop a technique ever until it was perfect. But he would not stop until every single part of his body, all the way down to his little toe, was in the perfect spot, and then he would let go, then it was your turn.
We beat them, young riders, raised in the gutter, really started from the bottom. Hey, we all we ever had, we all we ever needed, and we undefeated. We be going hard and make it look easy. Give me the whole pie, real cheesy. I told you, girl, no, but you might not believe me. She taking pictures for me, told her smile for me. Pass her off, I'm a real team player. Bandana on my face like a gangster. Knock, knock, you about to get shell shocked. Knock, knock, you about to get shell shocked. Knock, knock, you about to get shell shocked. Knock, knock, you about to get shell shocked.
This is what differentiates George from a lot of other athletes. He'll take a moment like that, put the blame on himself, which is where it belongs, and grow from it. He won't repeat a mistake twice. That's something that I think George had in his character from very early on that made him get to where he is.
There was a time where George was the most popular fighter, and you've seen how he carried himself. Everybody loved him for it.
A hero, an icon, a legend, and still the UFC welterweight champion, Georges St-Pierre.
GSP was one of the weirder guys because he was such a nice guy at all times. But when guys fucked with him, there was this switch that would go off in that head, and he would go on seek and destroy mode. And he was so good at it, man. When he fucked up BJ, he fucked up Fitch.
Essentially, he walked away from the game, and he walked away for 4 years. That's a long time to be out of a sport that, as young as MMA, which is evolving all the time. Every year the sport changes, and the belts tend to change hands very, very quickly.
Yeah.
How many fighters do you know came back after a 4-year layoff?
Very few.
I thought, if you're going to come back, let's do something significant, something you haven't done before. The way I put it to him was, what are the 3 most persistent criticisms you always hear about Georges St-Pierre? Number 1, you never fought up a weight class. Number 2, you fought so tactically sound, strategy and techniques. The average fan was like, well, yeah, he's winning easily, it's dominant, but it doesn't do it for it. It's not exciting, there's no drama in the fights. Third most persistent criticism, you're a very skilled fighter who wasn't finishing fights. So my point to him is, okay, if you're going to come back, let's do it in a way where you address those three things.
George had said, I'm better. I'm a better martial artist than I was before. And he looked better. Skill-wise, he looked phenomenal. I mean, his striking looked incredibly smooth. And I think you could see it in Bisping's face. He looked huge. He looked phenomenal. His technique, the way he was landing leg kicks and his sharp jab, and then ultimately that left hand that he used to stun Bisping and get him on the ground. I mean, he looked sensational. They might have got $1 million just from Canada. They said Canada was tracking higher than the pay-per-view for Mayweather versus McGregor. Canada's crazy for GSP, bro.
Love him some GSP.
I mean, he won Athlete of the Year back when the UFC was like not nearly as popular.
It's true. He's
pre-Ronda and pre-Conor.
The highlight of my life as a trainer to be in his presence. He is just ridiculously too famous.
GSP, a hero here at home.
If you're a mixed martial arts fighter, there's two people that you should see fight in two different places. Anderson Silva in Brazil and Georges St-Pierre in Montreal. And so you hear 22,000 people lose their mind. That was the loudest applause I've ever heard in my life.
When he defeated Matt Hughes at UFC 65, that place erupted like the Canadians had just won the Stanley Cup.
I've never met anyone, he would be the equivalent of a modern day Jesus. He's that guy. He's just the best, genuine, not only as just a dead set champion, but as a person.
He's the most humble, like, good dude. Like, it's very inspiring. He sets an example and everyone wants to kind of be like that.
What everybody learned is the gap between Georges St-Pierre as a mixed martial artist and the rest of the world is too big for anybody else to close. That is the greatest fighter we've ever seen. We knew that 4 years ago, but people have short-term memories. They were reminded of it tonight.
So I had a group of some of the best submission peoples in the world for George to work with. Suddenly Georges St-Pierre, if he got on your back, is a problem. He's submitting people in the gym. I could run off some names. I won't do it because it's not the thing to do, but I could run off some names of people he submitted in the gym that would shock you. Like well-known jiu-jitsu people.
He's such a nutcase, George. It's crazy.
He's great.
You can be the best. You can be the King Kong banging on your chest.
You can beat the world. You can beat the war. You can talk the guy, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up. You can beat the clock.
Yeah.
You can move a mountain. You can break rocks.
You can be a master. Don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you go find yourself.
Standing in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
'Cause you burn with the brightest flame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can go the distance, you can run the mile. You can walk straight through hell with a smile.
You could be the hero, you can get the gold. Breaking all the records they thought never could be broke.
Yeah, do it for your people, do it for your pride. Are you ever gonna know if you never even try?
Do it for your country, do it for your name. 'Cause there's gonna be a day when you're
standing in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
'Cause you burn with the brightest flame.
Yeah.
And the world's gonna know your name.
Yeah.
And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame.
Be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion.
The walls of the Hall of Fame. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions, be truth seekers. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions. Standing in the Hall of Fame. And the world's gonna know your name. 'Cause you burn with the brightest flame. And the world's gonna know your name. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can be the greatest, you can be the best. You can
When you think of the word successful, who comes to mind?
Georges St-Pierre. He's got a net worth, I think, 25-30 million. He owns his own apartment. He's on movies, he's on commercials. He can't walk down the street, and he's got a legacy that's going to outlive his life.
Dude, St-Pierre always did right by MMA. Always. Not only was he staying out of trouble and showing what it meant to be a high-level athlete and out there winning, but he found ways to make sure that the sport did well under his watch, that events did well under his watch, that the sport looked good, that when the cameras were on and the microphones were cracked and people were looking at MMA and it was under his watch, it looked the right way. It's a time to remember, in my judgment, the best fighter to ever do it, and certainly without contest, the most professional, the most capable, the most, in every sense of the word, successful fighter of all time. Georges St-Pierre in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where it all started, is where it appeared to have all ended. He retired today. I've never seen a career more carefully crafted and properly executed like this. From his debut, to his ascension, to his reign, to his sabbatical, and to ultimately his retirement. He raised the game. He raised the stakes. He brought the spotlight, and with it, all of the professionalism, all of the martial arts spirit. There are super special ones, truly elite ones, that just do it in ways that take your breath away. And that's what Georges St-Pierre did. He was everything you could have hoped for from a champion. How many of those guys avenged all their losses? St-Pierre did. How many people got sponsorships from Gatorade, were in Avengers movies? St-Pierre was. How many people can not only claim to be champs, but can also say that they hold the record for the most amount of title defenses in UFC history? St-Pierre can. That's the guy.
I hope you realize that there's a lot of fighters to come that are a product of your success. And as a Montrealer, I just want to thank you for everything that you did for this city and this country and for the sport, because I don't think there will be another one like you. And I think we're going to miss him because he was the greatest of all time.
He got to fight on his terms. He got to reign for the most part on his terms. He got to come back on his terms. He got to start on his terms, and he got to leave on his terms. He defeated the game while also giving back to the game by inspiring millions of others.
La puissance, que la puissance. J'ai pas connu la défaite depuis mon existence. Gros, je m'en sors bien, si jamais miraculé. Parle en français, parle au cas, je prends tes distances.